So when I'm shooting this episode right now, we're almost halfway through 2023. I mean, it is flying by. And the reality is this, that most real estate agents are way off track from the goal that they set just 5 months ago at the beginning of the year. And we see this year over year over year over year. Everyone gets all excited for these new goals, this new ambition, and then just a few short months later, we're way off target. There's no chance that we can even come close to hitting the goals that we've set. So what I want to do today is kind of walk through, how do we keep that from happening? What are the things that we can actually take action towards to ensure that we stay on track? Because here's the thing, it's not like we wake up and we totally fall off the rails from our goal. We drift off of our goals. In other words, we wake up a year from now and say, I can't believe how fast that year went. I can't believe how far I ended up based on where I sought out to go. And then oftentimes those things are night and day. It's like the airplane analogy where it's set to go to Florida. And if that pilot has its navigation just set off just a bit, it can end up in California, right? Just by being off a bit. And that's kind of like our goals. We drift off of our goals slowly. And then at the end of the year, we find ourselves, it's like, well, how did I end up here? And that takes time. So I'm going to share some notes that I wrote down with you guys on how we can keep that from happening. So here's kind of a framework that I share with agents that I coach that I think that you might find useful. The first thing that we have to do is, okay, identify the goal, a specific goal, and know being successful this year doesn't count. We have to say, okay, what is it that we're looking to accomplish? And in this case, under the context of this episode, now we're looking at the second half of 2023. Is it a challenging market? It absolutely is a challenging market. So doing some of the things we're going to talk about today are hyper important, hyper critical to you succeeding. So what is the level of income that we want to generate between now and the end of the year? What is that amount of money that we're looking to generate? That's the first thing we've got to get clear on. Then once we have that, we need to break that down into a monthly number and then ultimately into a weekly number so that we can know whether or not we are on track or off track. Are we on pace? Are we off pace? So we've got our goal. We've got our income goal. We've got that number broken down into monthly and weekly targets. Now the important piece, because most of us stop there. And the reality with goal achievement is this. Oftentimes, almost in all cases, you have no control over the outcome, do we? We have no control on the result. All we can control is what? What we can control. And that is mindset, attitude, action, and behaviors. Those are the things we can control, which we're going to talk about in just a second. To prove this point, if you're watching or listening to this episode, if I asked you right now to increase your heartbeat, increase your heart rate, can you make your pancreas work better? Go ahead, do it. You couldn't just snap your fingers and make any of those things happen. That's a result of some behaviors that must be taken first. I think everyone would agree with that. So now we've got that conceptually, we're in lockstep. Well, there's no difference in high achievement. We have the goal, the outcome, the result that we want. It's X dollars. Perfect. Beautiful. We've got that mapped out. Now, step number 3 is to determine what are the 2 or 3 or 4 behaviors, actions, or attitudes that we are in control of that, when done on a consistent basis, lead to the result, lead to the outcome. Going back to the increased heart rate. If you're just watching or listening to this episode and you're not doing anything, it'd be difficult for you just to decide to increase your heart rate. However, you could go for a walk, go for a run, Start doing push-ups, jumping jacks, burpees. That is an action that you get to decide on. And because of that decision, as a result of that decision, rather, your heart rate increases. This is the same thing. What are the vital actions or attitudes or behaviors that will drive to the income that you desire? Maybe that is having X amount of conversations per day or per week, meeting with X amount of people, presenting to enough people to get enough contracts to get those to close. What are those things that you are in control of? Write those down. Then step 4 is to write yourself a letter from the perspective of the goal already being achieved. So let's give an example. Let's just say you have a goal to generate $100,000 between now and the end of the year. Perfect. It doesn't matter what the goal is. Let's just use that as an example. Write your current self a letter from your future self explaining in vivid detail what it would be like had the goal been accomplished. And you're going to write that in vivid detail. What is the emotion? What is the feeling? What things are you able to do now that the goal has been achieved? And write it to your current self before the goal has been achieved. Now, we're going to come back to that because the next thing that we're going to do, number 5 on the list, is we're now going to look at those behaviors that we talked about before, those actions, those things that you are, in fact, in control of. And we're going to create what we call the Win the Day checklist. And on that checklist, on the left-hand side of that checklist, you're going to write down all of those things, those 2 to 3 actions, those 2 to 3 behaviors that you get to control every day. And then across the top are the days of the week. And so if you want to make $100,000 between now and the end of the year, and based on that goal, you have to talk to 20 new prospects per day. On the left-hand side, you're going to mark winning the day for me is talking to 20 new prospects per day. It's generating 2 new leads in my pipeline every day, and it's meeting with 1 new potential seller every day. If I do those 3 things, then I know I will make the money that I want to make. As an example, right? That's what could go on your winning the day checklist. And then across the top, you've got Monday through Friday. And every day you do that, you could put this on the wall. You give yourself a big, large red X. And now the game becomes a world where you don't want to break the chain of X's. You every single day want to give yourself a big fat red X, and you want to stack those on top of each other every single day. This is how we create a habit that we don't break. Because what have we done here? Some of you already got it, but for those that maybe it wasn't as obvious, is we altered the focus in our brain off of the result and we put it on the action. And that's how we achieve the outcome. If we can attach the mind's mechanism to define whether or not it's making progress towards an action, and we can associate our feelings, our emotion with those actions, the outcomes or the results take care of themselves in all cases. So in other words, if you can continue to win the day every day, do the 2 or 3 things that you know you're in control of, we stack those one day after the next. At the end of the week, you're going to track it and see, okay, where am I at? At the end of the month, here's what I want you to do. We're going to do a monthly business audit every 30 days between now and the end of the year. And all you have to do is look at how many days you won the day versus the days that you haven't, and where are we off to make sure that we get back on track. What are the behaviors, the actions, the holes that you need to fill to make sure that you stay on track? And then you let the outcomes and the results take care of themselves. And after you go through that audit, you bring back that letter that you wrote yourself. Because what often happens is after we have set the goal, after we feel good about setting the goal, very, very quickly, that emotion leaves us. And so we want to try to put ourselves back in the emotion of when we came up with the goal every 30 days to bring ourselves back to what we one time deemed critical for our life. What we found to be extremely important at one point in time in our life, we want to bring our emotions back to that every single month. To review that, to get back in the emotional state to say, yeah, this is what I'm fighting for. This is why I am doing what it is that I am doing. Because just like Viktor Frankl said, if one's why is strong enough, he can bear any how. And so we have to constantly be reviewing that why. And we do that every 30 days after we go through the numbers. That's the logic piece. Make sure our numbers are in line with the goals that we've set, to make sure that we're not in any type of cognitive dissonance, and that our emotional state, we both bring both emotion and logic to our business. The emotional state, we revisit that vision letter, the one that we wrote to ourselves, outlining what is life like once we've accomplished the goals that we've set out. So my hope is that you found some not inspiration, but rather some actionable things you can do as a result of watching today's episode. And of course, if you want help with that, I'm going to put a link underneath this video for you to find out more about our Listing Agent Academy coaching program, determine if that's for you or not. And if not, I'm going to continue to make videos like this every single day, helping you go out there, win, build a big, large, an amazing, profitable business that you're proud of. Not one that you resent, but one that serves you and your family. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I appreciate your time.